Good morning. Hello to another Kerfuffle showcase. Delighted today to have the lovely Mal McCallion. Hello there from Growtions.
Lovely to be here, my friend. How are you?
You are sporting your own particular brand of complimentary merch, I must say. I'm very impressed.
That's very true, actually. Yes, I haven't got a baseball cap, but I do actually have a face mask. It's my latest acquisition. So, but I didn't think it was going to be right for this conversation.
That's fine. I mean, you know, I would if you is that you somehow saying I'm something like a super spreader or something like that. Even
all the way from Manchester.
Even digitally, you feel you have to wear a mask with me. That's not very nice, is it?
I don't know what the rules are anymore. I'm confused.
No. We'll wait for Caesar Bojo to do that later on, or whatever we're allowed to do. Okay, let's kick off. So today we've got a nice title here: generate growth against the odds. Look at you playing the under. What is it? The contender or whatever.
Yeah.
Mal, we'll talk about your background in a minute here, but just give us the briefest overview before we go into detail. What's Growtion? What problems is it solving, and who's it for?
Thank you. All right. So Growtion basically came out of my general kind of nerdiness. All right. So I am absolutely obsessed with the idea of why some businesses grow and some businesses don't. So I believed that there had to be some sort of process, formula, if you will, about how which businesses go through the successful process and which ones go through the non-successful process. And as you know, I've been lucky enough to be part of some great growth stories in Zupa and Prime Location and others. And those kind of learnings along the way, and actually being kind of in on the ground when we started Prime Location, there was about 6 of us. I was playing 11 at Zupa. And you see these kind of steps that these businesses take as they build up towards being worth many millions and so on. And I kind of wanted to bring that into an accessible way for SMEs to get some of that, to get some information, because SMEs in general, who are obviously agents, who are suppliers, it's really hard. And to make the same mistakes as others are making, and to have those expensive blind alleys that you end up going down, and in general people do, because you don't always know what the kind of steps or where to look. So what I wanted to do was to kind of say, right, okay, let's get some format, some system in place that can guide people to think about how to grow their business. And that's where the kind of Growtion formula came from. It's 15 steps in 3 distinct disciplines. And then the idea was more than just kind of growth theory, it's execution. And that's why Growtion is Growtion. It's growth execution smashed together, because executing is much more important than sitting around chatting about it. And I will never claim to be the ideas guy, but I'm the guy that does stuff, and I get on with things. And that's what Growtion is about as well. It's not just the kind of sitting around having a nice chat and putting the world to rights. It's actually going out and doing it and executing on these various areas with the absolute focus on growing the business.
Because you and I have been lucky enough now, or cursed to have been in this game for so long now, that we've seen some truly interesting, good, could have been great businesses, but just for whatever reason they never made it. And literally, a lot of the time they allowed perfect to get in the way of better. They obviously overanalyze things. They just never put the foot forwards. Being brutally honest, they just never put the hard yards in, did they?
Exactly that, and that I think is the kind of one thing that I hope people get this conversation and get out working with us as well, is that this is building a business isn't easy, right? And there's that phrase that everybody uses, if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. It is phenomenally hard, and the majority of them fail within 5 years, and that's because in the end, unless you are really truly a believer in what you do, and something, the thing that we really drill hard into right at the start, the first one of these is about product concept, is why you're solving this problem. You have to really believe that that you are the person to do it, and you are going to build a business to do it, and that there is a problem, and that problem is understandable and is big enough. And it's only those, for me, it's only those businesses and those entrepreneurs that really believe it, that in the end will find a way to make it. Because when the hard times come, as I think we've all seen this year, it's the businesses that are a little bit more shaky. It's the kind of the founders who are a bit more like, do you know what, this is too hard. That's when things go. But yeah, one of the kind of core sort of foundation of everything for me is this belief that this needs to be fixed, and you're the person to fix it.
And so for those people under a rock that don't know you, but why do you feel that you're the person to be able to talk about this? Can you just give us again a bit of that background? Obviously, I know it very well, those companies, but just
because I keep telling you.
Give us your evolution story.
Yeah, sure. So I started out Fitz University a very, very long time ago, in '93. I went to work in financial services. Had some fun in there. In the end, became an account director there, working with people like HSBC, Barclays, and various financial service organisations. And then that business moved up to York, and I went with it and helped it to relocate. And then this was 2000. I was 27, and I didn't want to be in York in the end, and I wanted to be back in London. So I was speaking with some various recruitment businesses, and one just said, "Look, we've got this thing. Don't really know what it is." And this was in 2000, right? So this was the dawn of the internet, and just when people were starting to kind of get a hold of it. They said this thing is basically, that they want somebody to come and do some sales. It's got financial services in it, so we were selling mortgages. So I ended up speaking to what became Prime Location from pretty much nowhere, and started there in 2000 pre-launch. Left there just after we sold it in 2005 for 48 million, and that gave me the buck, basically, of startups, of business growth, of just seeing this, basically 6 people sitting around having a chat in an office to a 48 million pound business exit. And that was something that really kind of focused me and inspired me to really want to keep going, to keep growing, to get hold of businesses, or to help businesses to execute on growth. So then when I left Prime Location, I went to join the Australians. REA Group had come over to the UK to take over Property Finder, and I went and worked there with some great people, really inspirational guys. Ended up running their magazine business, London Property News, which we turned from a loss into a profit within 10 months, which was amazing and great fun. And then Zoopla came along in 2008 and asked me to come and help them get launched and get set up. So went and worked with Alex and those guys. Again, amazing business, amazing, inspirational people. Very, very fortunate. Worked for them for 3 years, and it was amazing.
What was Alex like to work for? I never had the pleasure of obviously working with him closely, but I've heard obviously a lot of secondhand stories that he really was a fairly unique character.
Oh, quite, and inspirational as being unique. So his focus, I remember, really early on, just kind of trying to get an understanding of what what we had 27 million properties all listed on the site, so you could go and find your own property. And the way his mind worked was around, essentially he thought of them as being barcoded. So we had this kind of unique ID for every single property in the UK. And what we were really focused on, one of our KPIs right at the start, was how many of them had attributes. So how much did we know about these individual properties? And he always said, look, we're a data business that just happens to be in property. And that was how he kind of saw the world. And there was a load of really, really kind of key things that I learned along the way, watching him at work up close. And just, really kind of inspirational, very dedicated, worked right through the night. And it was just a real kind of inspiration. Amazing.
Because I don't think realistically, I can't think of any contenders for somebody who's done more deals within this sector, is there, in terms of merger and acquisition activity? He was top of the tree, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And if you look back over his business past, then that was very much a key kind of factor as well. And he wasn't precious about it either. So when he created Love Film, which he then sold to Amazon just before he then set up Zoopla, he had brought together, I think he worked for a business, or he'd set up a business called Video Networks, and it was basically doing the same, but there were 4 of them. And he basically and they were all competing, and they kind of hated each other. And he just managed to do these deals with the other three. And it's one of the other ones was called Love Film, and he was like, "No, I don't, that's a much better name than my name, so let's call it Love Film. Let's all get together. Let's stop fighting and spending all this money and time doing that. Let's just get together and build this sector." And that was exactly what he replicated with Super as well, was this kind of idea that, look, and I think the big deal with Digital Property Group as it was, when he got Prime Location and Finder Property together, after he'd done all the Think Property, Hot Property, and Property Finder ones, was just kind of cutting through the emotion of it, and that was amazing for me. We'd gone toe to toe with Digital Property Group, but when we were growing, it was just we were tiny. Then we acquired some businesses. Then we went toe to toe with Digital Property Group, and as you do when you're competing, you spend a lot of time and energy trying to hurt them from a business perspective, a commercial perspective. But then, when the opportunity arose to do that deal, he just managed to cut through it and just kind of say, look, we shouldn't be fighting each other. Rightmove's the big dog. So let's join forces and go after that. And he made it happen. But yeah, he's amazing from that as well.
I think make it happen is one of the things that I really respected, because ostensibly, he was meant to be the big, my big nemesis, being at Repeat, and obviously they owned all the, as you'll remember, the Property Software Group program. Yeah. So it was, we had the challenger brand, so it was easy to obviously have a pop from a distance. But the thing I did respect was, to get that level of business, is having been through just a few of them myself, what huge distraction of time, how difficult it is once egos and money's involved. It truly is massively impressive to have built that kind of, as you said, collection data empire that he managed to do there. So that's why I ask you the question, really. Anything you can do, anything you can glean from someone like that has got to be a benefit for obviously yourself and indeed the companies you work with going forwards.
Absolutely. And if there was a kind of real inspiration for this execution idea, then it was probably with Alex and with Zupa, which is, you can spend a lot of time on the money show, you can spend a lot of time on the emotion. Everybody feels stuff, right? But actually at the end of the day, what's important? And what's important is business growth. So you look past all of these, all of this kind of fluff that gets in the way. You filter it all out and you just go, right, if I need to solve this problem, okay, so I've built business to solve a problem. If I'm going to solve that problem, then I need to get to the other side of this really, really quickly and not get bogged down in all of this nonsense. So, and it was just so clear-eyed on what the prize was, and to build a business. And remember, Digital Property Group by that stage had been up against Rightmove for years and years and years and years. And we were coming up hard on their heels in terms of business growth within the space of like 2 years. And it was, just a real joy to be part of and to, like I said, to kind of sit and watch and to learn from. Like you say, there are things that I hope I've learned and also I can bring and do bring to the partners that we work with as well in Growtion around just what's important. Don't get bogged down in this other stuff. It's business.
And what is important for, I suppose that changes with each company, doesn't it? But what's your first step when you're setting out to help businesses? And ultimately, how do you help those businesses, thrive?
Yeah. So initially, the one question that we have to get to the bottom of really, really quickly is the why question. And I know you and I have spoken before about Simon Sinek, and start with why. This purpose that the business is here to solve, and that's what I try and find out first. And obviously you kind of work with, you have a choice of who to work with, and generally I work with businesses that are really are doing something that's important and have got somebody behind them that is really pushing for it and believes that this is their calling in life. So the first question is two halves. It's why you and why this problem. Okay, so why you, why this problem? And then once you identify what your skills are, your history is, that makes you uniquely qualified to tackle this, and this problem is significant enough and has enough pain in it that people are going to suffer from it, want a solution to it, even if they don't quite know it yet. And also willing to pay money for it, obviously, because that's the end game. Then what you are is in a wonderful situation where you have the opportunity to be paid for doing something that is going to be of value to you and others. And that to me is the kind of the epicenter of SME business. You know, is actually people finding what their role in life is, and then executing on it and making it happen. And to be part of those stories is amazing. And that's my fun.
And are we talking here about just helping just estate agents? Are we talking about helping suppliers? Do you cater for both? Who's the target audience?
Yeah, so essentially it is SMEs. So the challenges that face suppliers and the challenges that face agents are the same at heart, which is, you know, how do you build a product or a service that is going to scale, that you're going to be able to grow from? How do you market it? And then how do you sell it? Okay, so those three things are kind of the things that we focus really hard on within the Growtion formula. Because nice as having a legal department, an HR department, accounts and all that sort of stuff is, unless you get these three things right, then you've got nothing to account for, you've got nothing to no people to HR, and you've got nobody to sue on the legal side. So yeah, it is an absolutely ruthless focus on product marketing and sales. You get these three things right and you will be growing and growing fast. And it is absolutely something that challenges any SME in any industry. And we don't just work in the property market, we do work elsewhere as well. But certainly, you know, this is where this is where I've grown up these last 20 odd years, and you know, it remains a passion of mine to kind of help people in their biggest transaction of their lives, you know, and where you live is so important as well, right?
Yeah.
That it is people making dreams come true and helping people with their lives, and every supplier and every agent that is doing it for the right reasons is doing some good out there. So that's why I do love it.
Okay. And what do you think, I mean, taking it back to today, Mal, you know, what do you think the biggest problem is facing the property market right at the moment?
Well, I mean, it's I mean, there's obviously the big kind of the pandemic is here, right? But I think almost in the micro term, it's about, I think over exuberance is probably going to be a problem right now, where people are so focused on doing stuff because there's so much stuff to do right here, right now, that big, massive elephant in the corner that is just kind of like, oh, by the way, you know, come the 31st of March next year, the stamp duty holiday is going to either disappear or change, probably. And, you know, we've got Brexit coming down the track, and you know, these are things, these are moments in time where, yes, you've got to execute on your skills. Yes, you've got to make sure that you're making the money when the sun is shining. But at the same time, now is absolutely the time where you need to be thinking about how the hell am I going to get my products set right for 2021? How am I going to get my marketing in place for 2021? And how am I going to get my sales together for 2021? Because it's coming fast. It's nearly October. It's October next week. And that's Q4, right? So, you know, we are, the 2020 has been a remarkable year for many reasons. But I just think that the problem that the property market and participants in are going to face in the next few months is going to be probably what every other sector is facing right now, and that there are existential crises coming for some, and those that are thinking now about that are the ones that are gonna thrive next year.
It's a good point, isn't it? There's not an agent in the land that wouldn't have snapped your hand off if you did take the market we've returned to back in June. But the problem therein lies, actually, it's been almost a bit of an artificial one compared to what else is happening out there in the wider market. And sooner or later, that you'd imagine that's got to, you know, take effect. Most people are the phrase "making hay while the sun shines." You know, most people start talking about, obviously, you know, traditionally starts to slow down about October, November anyway. But the danger is if you don't put your work in because you are busy at the moment, then the start of 2021 is going to be tougher than it's ever been, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think for business owners right now, you know, they're the ones that can do this strategic thinking. Perhaps if they're honest with themselves, the fun stuff, they're going out and securing instructions, they selling the properties, and all that sort of stuff, you can get somebody else to do, and you should, because that's your job as an SME owner, entrepreneur, founder. is to think about what the strategic side of the business is, and that's what we spend a lot of time on. Is, actually, yes, you can go and do all the fun stuff and get involved in all of the day-to-day, but right here, right now, that is what you can pay other people to do, because there's stuff to do, and it's relatively process oriented. What you really need to do is some of the
they're falling into the easy busy mode, aren't they? There, where actually you can fill your diary from dawn till dusk. You can even kid yourself, that phrase, not kid yourself, because it is dollar productive, because you're clearly earning. But is it dollar productive in terms of making the biggest effect to your business as a whole for the coming year? And that's where arguably it really isn't it? As long as you have got other people there that can do it, because frankly, there's going to be very few people in your business, arguably none, that can do what you can do on that strategic level.
Yeah, and that's it. That is exactly the point. Is that this business, in whatever shape it's going to end up in this time next year, right? So let's posit that it's the 27th September 2021. What is your business going to look like this time next year? And the only person really that can focus in on that can visualize that and can take the steps necessary to get there is the business owner, is the founder, is the directors or the board of directors. So that's what they should be doing, and the kind of day-to-day, like you say, it's easy to get involved in that. It's easy to say that this is important, because making money is, but there are so many solutions out there, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of the kind of prop tech stuff and various others, the kind of the viewers and things like that. There are things that you can outsource that are cost effective, and you should right now be focusing on your business, not in your business, as our good friend Peter and I always talks about.
Just on that point, then, is it possible, or how can agents best prepare for potential, future crises, whether that's a pandemic or, recession or anything else? It is part of the Growtion approach to really almost have that rainy day philosophy, to hard code that into the business. How do you advise people to look at that?
Yeah, we're not just the bad news guys, but we also represent the bad news guys, right? We need to help. If you're going to execute on growth, then you've got to execute on growth in the bad times as well as the good times, right? So, there is no business in history that does not go through a recession or some negatives at some stage. So, for us, it's about the basics, about the fundamentals. Okay, it is always about what is your product set, all right? How have you crafted the value proposition that you are bringing to market? How is it then marketed? So what is your messaging to get it out there? And how consistent is that? How believable is that? How authentic is that? And then what is your sales process? Okay, and this is, even in the property market, which is renowned for a plethora of salespeople, and pretty much, almost that's what people don't get past. Sales process and the idea of kind of having a steady funnel of leads in the top and business coming out the bottom is so anathemic to so many people. The excitement of sales and the kind of like, right, I'm just going to get these deals done is so prevalent that actually the systemizing of it is something that is really difficult for people. And to be fair, in any SME struggles with that. Then I find that, we find that the clients in a lot of industries love the product side, love the creation of the thing that they're here to do, and that's their big calling. So that's done. And they love the marketing side because it's a bit creative and a bit, cool, and they can kind of, basically elaborate on their theories a lot. And it's the sales side, it's the kind of hard work, the grit that a lot of businesses don't systemize. And that's the stuff that's going to that's going to stand the test of time next year. You have to know where your leads are coming from, what you're doing with them, and how you're processing them, because there's going to be a lot less, I think, next year.
Okay, mate. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for taking part. Cheers.